What happens when two of the most powerful men in the world of religion collide in a shocking display of violence? You won't believe the crazy turn of events that unfolded when T.D. Jakes, the renowned bishop and megachurch pastor, crossed paths with Sherman, the controversial televangelist, and his hulking bodyguard. This explosive confrontation resulted in Jakes being rushed to the hospital and left the entire congregation of the Potter's house in a state of absolute chaos. Strap in, because you're about to witness the craziest church drama you've ever seen. It was a typical Sunday morning at the Potter's house, the sprawling megachurch led by the charismatic Bishop T.D. Jakes. The pews were packed with thousands of devoted worshippers, all eagerly awaiting Jakes' inspiring sermon. Little did they know, a dark storm was about to descend upon their house of God. As Jakes took the stage, he scanned the crowd, his piercing gaze suddenly locking onto a familiar face in the front row, none other than Sherman, the polarizing televangelist who had been Jakes' longtime rival. Sherman's presence alone was enough to set the congregation abuzz with whispers and speculation. What was he doing here, in Jakes' own church? Jakes, never one to back down from a challenge, decided to address the elephant in the room head-on. Well, if it isn't our dear brother, Sherman, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. I must say, I'm surprised to see you here in my humble abode. To what do we owe this unexpected visit? Sherman, never one to be outdone, rose from his seat, his imposing frame towering over the congregation. Bishop Jakes, he boomed, I'm here to set the record straight once and for all. Your constant attacks on my ministry have gone on long enough. It's time we settle this, man to man. Before Jakes could respond, Sherman's hulking bodyguard, a mountain of a man with a scowl that could curdle milk, stepped forward. You heard the man, he growled, cracking his knuckles menacingly. If you got a problem with Sherman, you got a problem with me. Jakes, never one to shy away from a challenge, squared his shoulders and strode towards the stage, his security team in tow. I don't know what you think you're doing here, Sherman, but this is my house. And no one, not even your goon squad, is going to disrupt my service. The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with the promise of violence. The congregation sat in stunned silence, their eyes darting back and forth between the two larger-than-life figures facing off on the stage. Without warning, the bodyguard lunged forward, his massive fist connecting with Jakes' jaw with a sickening crack. Jake staggered backwards, dazed, but refused to go down. He retaliated with a flurry of blows, his years of boxing training coming to the fore. The two men traded punches, their thunderous blows echoing through the cavernous church. Pews were overturned, and the congregation scrambled for cover as the brawl spilled into the aisles. Jakes, fueled by righteous indignation, fought with a ferocity that belied his age, but the bodyguard's sheer size and strength began to take its toll. Eventually, the bodyguard landed a devastating blow to Jakes' midsection, sending the bishop crashing to the floor. As Jakes lay motionless, the bodyguard loomed over him, a triumphant sneer on his face. Pandemonium erupted in the church, with worshippers screaming and running for the exits. Jakes' security team finally managed to subdue the bodyguard, but not before he had inflicted serious damage. Jakes was rushed to the hospital, his condition described as critical but stable. The news of the brutal attack spread like wildfire, sparking outrage and condemnation from Jakes' supporters and the wider religious community. How dare this bodyguard, acting on behalf of the controversial Sherman, lay hands on a revered man of God? Calls for justice and retribution echoed across social media and cable news channels. In the aftermath of the shocking incident, Jakes' supporters rallied around him, organizing prayer vigils and fundraising efforts to cover his medical expenses. The bishop's conditions slowly improved, and he vowed to return to the pulpit stronger than ever, ready to continue his fight against the forces of darkness that had invaded his sanctuary. As for Sherman, he quickly distanced himself from the bodyguard's actions, claiming that he had not authorized the attack and that he was deeply saddened by the turn of events. However, many remained skeptical, convinced that the televangelist had orchestrated the entire confrontation as a power play against his longtime rival. But one thing is certain. Bishop T.D. Jakes is not one to be trusted.